LeBron James's legacy, I think, is hugely on this series because they're huge favorites against the Heat, which I believe he's only been a favorite in the NBA Finals. I think LeBron's only been a favorite like twice or three times maybe, and this might be the third time because he wasn't favored against San Antonio the first time when he was in Cleveland and he lost. He was favored against the Mavericks and then he lost. He was favored against the Thunder and he won. I can't remember if he was favored against the Spurs and he won. And then I know for sure he wasn't favored the next year. They lost. And then he wasn't favored at any point against any of the Golden State teams. Warriors. So yeah, against the Warriors. So he has 3 championships. He's in his 10th NBA Finals. If he wins this one, he's 4-6, which is still not a great record, but still 4 championships, 3 different teams. That's very impressive. And for his GOAT status, because I believe he is the greatest player of all time, if not second. But that's a whole different discussion. But for GOAT status, if he loses this one, because I think those ones are worse. If you lose a championship that you were supposed to win, unless you have some major injury, either with yourself or like if Anthony Davis went out and he was out for the series, I don't really put that on him. Because I think if Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love were healthy, I think they should have won. They would have been favorites to play and beat Golden State that first year. But he didn't, and so it was a whole different aspect of it. But as long as he has at least Anthony Davis healthy, if anyone else gets hurt, it is what it is. But if Anthony Davis is healthy, they need to win this NBA Finals. Even if it went 7 games, he needs to win the NBA Finals because you won't really think about it 7 games, 6 games. It doesn't matter. It's just if he wins or loses. But here's the thing.
Right.
Here's the thing. So LeBron could either. Here's the situations, scenarios. LeBron could either win the NBA championship and the NBA Finals, which he's won the NBA Finals MVP every year that he's won his championship, and it'll look great. He can win the NBA championship, play really good, but Anthony Davis wins the Finals MVP, which for GOAT purposes doesn't really look good. He could, but he'll be. I'm sure. If I were him, I would still be happy. I'd rather win the championship than lose the championship because that's kind of what happened with the Lakers against Detroit, where Kobe. I think he was sick of being the number 2. If he won the NBA Finals MVP and he had an amazing NBA Finals appearance, then I don't think anyone would be thinking he's really a 2. It's just they're the best 2 players in the league playing on the same team. I think that's kind of how it would have been, or Kobe would have just overtook Shaq. So there was a lot of ego in that one. I don't think LeBron has as much ego. I think if Davis just blows up, I think he'll be like, well, he's our franchise player going forward, and I'm here to make sure that we're winning championships as well or something. It'll be something like that. But so you have that. Or he could lose the NBA Finals. He can play great, and that won't make a difference. If he plays great and loses the NBA Finals, it's a tarnishment because he should have won the NBA Finals. And the worst case scenario is he loses the NBA Finals and he plays really poorly like he did against the Mavericks the first year when he was with the Heat. So what's your take? What do you guys feel about that? Because that's really realistically the situation.
Yeah, I think he's number 2 right now. I think if they win this championship, I really think that you kind of start to change the scenario and the narrative that he is the greatest of all time. When they think about this, Larry Bird at the same age as LeBron had a bad back, played 44 games and retired. Magic Johnson was on the downward slope. I mean, he's 35 years old, and he's playing at an elite level.
Mm-hmm.
He's still the best player in the game. Think about that. At 35, when most people are about ready to retire, he's still on the top of his game. I don't think we've ever seen a player like this before. That when he was 16 or 17 years old, he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated as the next great basketball player. Just think about that, And then he comes into the league right out of high school and does well, and a couple years later they're in the playoffs. I think he's the best player who's ever lived. there's no doubt in my mind now. But as far as legacy, he does got to win one more. But just that he's been in the finals for 10 out of 11 years, and last year he didn't play because of a groin injury. I mean, I don't think you're ever going to see that again. I mean, that's just remarkable stat.
Right. I would totally agree. As far as his legacy, if he loses, it's not going to go very well because he's already getting bashed for losing all those finals. So I think if he was to lose this one, I mean, you're just piling on to the negativity. Well, at least the people that, look down upon him because of that, because he lost so many. So, I mean, what's one more loss? I don't think he's going to lose. I think he'll definitely win. It'll not only put him in a category, actually he'll be the first player ever to win if he gets the Finals MVP, a Finals MVP with 3 different teams. And as far as like later Hall of Fame, he'll be there with, Kobe, who has 2, Shaq 3, Magic, Kareem. Those are big shoes to fill here in LA. If he doesn't win this year, I mean, I don't know if you guys would agree or not, but next year it is not going to get easier because you're going to have the Golden State back. I'm not saying they're going to be the Golden State of the old years, but they're going to be back. Yeah. And you got, the Splash Brothers who are a pain, especially in the playoffs. And then you have, and I'm sure you guys heard about Doc getting let go by the Clippers.
Right.
If the and I don't want to say that he's a bad coach, and Coach, you might be able to speak more to this, but I just don't think he is as good as they make him out to be, Doc Rivers. I think if the Clippers get a better coach, which I think they'll probably get Tyronn Lue.
Yeah, I think
that could be a lot of trouble for us because Tyronn Lue is he's that pitbull type of coach that's good with X's and O's, and that can be trouble for us. And of course, you got New Jersey or Brooklyn, I should say Brooklyn. They're going to be back, and I just think that if we're going to win it, we got to win it this year because if we don't win it this year, next year it's not going to be a cakewalk. And assuming that this whole nightmare of COVID goes away, you're going to start playing in arenas filled with hopefully fans that are obviously going to make things a little harder. So, I mean, I don't know what you guys think as far as that goes, but, I mean, they have to win it this year, and I think if he does win it and he does get an MVP, I don't think he'll pass Michael Jordan, but he'll be tied. To me, he'll be right there with him, as far as the GOAT status goes. But if he wins one more after that in the next 2-3 years, I think by that point, even if he doesn't get the MVP 2-3 years from now, I think he'll be the GOAT after everything's said and done.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. It's definitely going to be tougher next year, but if they do win it this year, and AD's going to re-sign, then all of a sudden all these veterans are going to come out of the woodwork and they want to play for the Lakers for the minimum. Yeah. And then they're going to be deeper than this year. So I think if they win it this year, I think they have a great chance to win it next year. I do agree that Brooklyn's going to be really good, and Miami's going to be really good, and then you can't forget about Denver. Right? They just put the impression on me that they're really good. And what's going to happen is who's going to make the big trade, and that could be another podcast, right? But someone's going to make a trade that's going to change everything again. With the Clippers, I agree with you. Doc Rivers is a really good coach. Is a really good coach when he's coaching a team with no talent. Like last year, they made it to the playoffs. They gave Golden State Warriors a run for their money. When he was a coach at Orlando, they did great things with no talent. But it's really weird is when he gets talent, other than the big three.
Yeah, other than literally just the first year. and I don't know if you guys remember in that series, or that year in 2008 with the Celtics. Do you know how many games the Celtics went in the first round against the Hawks?
Probably 6.
7. And then you know how many games they went in the second round? I can't remember who they played, but you know how many games they played in the second round?
Oh, we might have got 7-2, right? Didn't
7.
7-7-7.
And then the Eastern Conference Championship, 7. And then they got to the NBA Finals, and I think they beat the Lakers in 6. And And I was like, dang, like that team almost lost in the first round against the Hawks, and that wasn't a very good Hawks team. They were like a below 500 Hawks team.
Yeah.
And they almost beat them. And they got better and better, and then once they got to the finals, they locked down. But I'm like, man, you almost blew lead after lead. In 1 year, you almost did it again and again. And then, they hit and they won the NBA Finals, and they deserved it. They played very good basketball in the finals against the Lakers. But, I mean, after that, I mean, Boston hasn't, with Doc, Boston didn't do anything, and then he got traded. That was weird as it was that the coach got traded, but he got traded to the Clippers, and then they never really did anything. I mean, they were the best that the franchise at that time has ever been under, and he's the best coach that they've ever had. That being said, their whole franchise has been a mess for as long as they've been in existence. So, I mean, there's that, but yeah, I don't know what coach they get, but go ahead.
Do you guys think Tyronn Lue is going to be their next coach, or who do you guys think will be their next coach?
I don't think coach believes that. I think that's the obvious choice, and I can't think of another coach that's really better in that situation, especially because you're trying to beat LeBron. Who better to try to beat LeBron than his old coach? So I honestly think it is Tyronn Lue.
I do not respect Tyronn Lue as a coach at all. I think he is one of those guys that is a good guy. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think he's a good coach. I think he's a Doc disciple. He's learned everything from Doc. He's Doc 2.0, and to me, it doesn't make sense to bring Doc 2.0 when Doc 1.0 didn't work. Who they get, I don't have a clue right now. They're going to go.
I can't think of anybody.
Van Gundy and all those guys.
But you really think Van Gundy's better?
Like Nick Nurse.
Yeah. Okay, here's the thing. You can't pick up a guy like Nick Nurse because, one, you don't know.
No. I'm talking about maybe a guy from the G League.
Yeah, but you can't do that. This year is going to be the biggest year for the Clippers ever because if it's going to be a really weird offseason because, one, they may have to extend Paul George to a further contract. I don't know if the Clippers will do it, but if they don't extend Paul George at this point, I mean, they may want to because his value is so low, but if they don't, he could just walk for nothing. And they traded all this assets for him, and now you hope that he can recover from it. But, I mean, even if you extend him, you can trade him, and then that's at least something. He's valuable that way. Kawhi Leonard, he can just leave for nothing at the end of this next offseason. So 1 year from now, or probably less than 1 year from now, he can leave for nothing. And then in the whole team, Montrezl Harris or Harrell, he can leave this year, and he most likely will. Tyronn Lue's, I believe his contract runs up. All these guys, the whole Clipper franchise can go in a complete mess with no first-round picks for like 6 years going forward if they don't make the right move. So it's like, I don't think you can't gamble on choosing. I mean, you can hit. If you hit and get a Nick Nurse, oh my God, amazing. But I mean, can you gamble your whole next 6 years on that? Because I mean, and you have to have Kawhi Leonard sign off on it. And I think the only one Kawhi Leonard will sign off on will probably be Ty Lue. I mean, unless you were able to get some great coach to say, I don't know any coaches that are free agents that are great coaches.
I have a funny feeling they're going to go with a big name because I think Ballmer, fired Doc, right? Or they say Doc left, but he was fired.
Yeah, he was fired.
And then so they got to bring in a big name. So I'm thinking it's going to be Van Gundy or Mark Jackson. Do I think they're the right coach? No.
Yeah, I don't think Mark Jackson's got to be the coach of that team.
I think the optics, they want to bring in someone like that. But to me, if they could pick anybody, it'd be Nick Nurse. But yeah, you're right. They're not going to get anybody.
I mean, if you can say I could have any coach in the whole league, I think Nick Nurse actually would probably be the best coach for that team. But I think Nick Nurse just signed an extension, so there's no way you're going to get Nick Nurse, and you're not going to get Brad Stevens. And actually, Vogel would be a really good coach for the Clippers if they were able to just say, "Let's get him."
That earlier. I was going to say that earlier.
But
had he not coached the Lakers, he would have been
He would have been
a good pick.
Absolutely.
Here's the other thing too. I bet you Billy Donovan. Not that he would have been the best coach there. But I bet you Billy Donovan's thinking to himself, man, I should have waited.
A lot of people should have waited. You think the Bulls, too? Because Doc Rivers is a native he's from Chicago, he would probably love to go
Yeah,
coach the Bulls too. And
Yep.
and then there would be no expectations. It would actually be a good deal. So you just toss money at that point. But
I was just going to say, I think they already know who they want, to be honest with you, because the owner of the Clips is like a billionaire, like I said, he's worth like $17 billion. People that are usually that rich or, started off from nothing and became that rich, they plan everything so far ahead. And the way that they fired, Doc, I think they already know who they want.
Sure.